Well, in 2008, the Indian cricket operation brought to the world a whole new superstar kind of factory, I guess you could call it now. They created something called the IPL, or the Indian Premier League. It's now one of the most popular and lucrative sports leagues in the world. And here in South Africa, after many attempts, we've finally got something that is really on the road. Graeme Smith, who is the program director of Betway SA20 Challenge, is with us. Graeme, lovely talking with you. You are obviously well known, not just amongst South Africans, but around the world for your athletic prowess. But it's as a businessman now that you are making a big name. And the whole IPL, let's just maybe unpack a little how substantial it is, the kind of numbers of people who watch it and the finances that are involved there. It's got to be approaching what we see in some of the other major sports around the world.
Yeah, well, firstly, thanks for having me, Alec. It's good to connect. I remember I was at the beginning of IPL in 2008. I was selected at the first ever auction for the Rajasthan Royals, and we went on to win the first year. So, I mean, I don't think any of us could have expected, how that first year went and how it's been built on from year on year now. I think it's entering its 16th season, if my memory serves me right. And, if I think about the last broadcast deal that was done, the per game fee that they extracting for IPL now is up there with the valuations of an NFL, so it's insane. We know how popular cricket is in India. The fan base is huge. The commercial base is big, and it's certainly changed the landscape of cricket over the last 16 years.
How do you feel about it, being a test cricketer, test captain for the Proteas, and of course having played all forms of the game, to see how T20 has taken off?
If I think back, I think T20 for us right in the beginning was kind of more of the fun element of sort of the international schedule. It's where, I guess more trial in selection happened. It was sort of an opportunity to go out and express yourself. It almost in some ways felt like a little bit less pressure than playing ODI and Test cricket, but that certainly has changed now. It's become not only commercially, the sort of number one product in the game, but also an opportunity to attract a whole new audience to the game of cricket. I think that is key. It's also, 5-day cricket is a very difficult format to grow into many other new cricketing regions, around the world, or countries around the world. So I think T20 offers, certainly a big growth element. You see now with, moving into the Olympics in LA, as an example, there's certainly going to be a lot of growth in that format of the game.
And very exciting here in South Africa after a number of false starts. Why did it take so long for this form of the game, and in particular what you are now putting together for January, to really catch hold here?
Yeah, it's always difficult to know where these things fell flat in the past. I mean, I think, obviously strategy, the structure of setting up these competitions. I think CSA on a number of occasions tried to do it by itself, and I think financially it just wasn't viable at the time, for whatever reason. I think there were pretty huge losses. I never quite, sort of nailed the opportunity. I think, for the first time, we built it just slightly outside the federation, where CSA is still the majority shareholder, but we've attracted SuperSport as a shareholder as well, or multi-choice group. And we've been able to build it off that initial broadcast deal. I think that's somewhere where they fell flat in the past, is that, having a home broadcaster that is prepared to get behind the product, put its weight behind the product in terms of the production, in terms of the rights fees. And then that allowed us to go to market to build a prospectus. And then from there, you're looking at a franchise model. You're trying to attract, I guess, the biggest entities you can in the world that can carry and help you build a product at the level that you want to build it. And, we, in the end, did about 30 prospectus conversations and attracted, once we handed it over to Deloitte, we attracted 14 bids. And we were very fortunate that 6 of those bids were IPL teams that came with the most experience, the most good standing, and obviously commercially really strong business entities within themselves.
Yeah, you couldn't have actually written the script any better. Here you've got, I suppose it's like the Man United and Barcelona's and Real Madrid's of the cricket world, who are picking up here in South Africa, developing, helping you to develop a franchise. And how much you would understand that they've learned a lot since 2008 in how to run it commercially, but how much of the structure have you learned as the program director here on the way that the IPL is put together?
Oh, I think you can certainly learn a lot. I mean, there were obviously IPL's the number one. It's a beast. We discussed that. I mean, but there have been other entities that have had different models. You think about the Big Bash, the Cricket Australia pretty much own and run that. At the moment, the 100 in the UK also doing it under the sort of ECB banner. I know that the 100 in itself is probably going to go head down the investment route as well now, whether it's in sort of the central part or for franchises to be able to buy and own, entities like we do here. So I think this franchise model is certainly rolling out at pace, and it's changing the game. But as you say, to be able to attract 6, I think the other important thing, 6 at an equal level. So they're equally competitive, they're equally commercially strong. They equally have the experience of how to run franchises and businesses and teams. So the object of a league for us is to try and keep it at the central level, is try and keep the cricket as fair and as strong as possible across the board. Ultimately, someone's got to win every year, and but we want to see that standard is being raised every year and it's competitive across the board without one team really, I guess, dominating for 10 years. We want to keep it as balanced as we can.
So in the IPL, the franchises are allowed to have 25 players, a maximum 25 players. But for each game, they can only have 4 overseas players. So they don't just have 4 in the 25. They have many more than that sometimes. How does it work in South Africa?
It's very similar. In your playing 11, you've got to have I guess a minimum of 7 South African players. You can have 8, so it can be a 7-4 split or an 8-3 split. Being able to attract, I guess, the level of international talent is also crucial to the success. I think we've done very well there. We've got some outstanding international players coming back for season 2 as well. So we 10-7 in the squad. This year we introduced a rookie player as well. So our franchises, have picked up a rookie player. I think, in the tournament or in the squads this year, I think we've got 4 17-year-olds that will be around and learning. So, yeah, I mean, part of our objective is to really expose sort of your top 70-odd, 75 South African players to the best practice in the world game, expose them to crowds, international broadcast setups, playing against the best players in the world. Our franchises come with incredible, not only business acumen, but they bring the best coaches, the medical, the fitness or whatever. So, maybe in areas that have slightly fallen flat in domestic cricket over the last few years from an investment perspective, is we're trying to just really uplift that and expose our top 75, 80 players, whatever the number is, to the best practice and the most competitive league that we can have in South Africa.
IPL, with all of its injection of economic resources into Indian cricket, has clearly made a big impact. I think many people were surprised that they didn't just run away with the World Cup earlier this year. What about from a South African perspective? Is this the way you guys at Cricket South Africa, or the way that Cricket South Africa is looking at it, is that this will be the injection that the sport might need in this country?
I think there's obviously, different ways to look at it, but I think if we stick to just the cricket elements, as I said, being able to bring, I guess, this type of tournament and expose our players to a competition at this level will definitely benefit the Proteas. We hope that in 2, 3, 4 years' time, you'll start to see a level of player coming through that's, been exposed to the best in the world, that's played in front of the big high-pressure crowds, that's, been seen around the world from a global broadcast perspective. They've faced a Jofra Archer, bowled at a Joss Butler, and obviously the top played consistently with the top South African players. I think that's maybe an area that's fallen flat at domestic level in South Africa for a while now. So, every year we would love to expose the best 70 odd players in South Africa to that, and we hope that in turn prepares our players for the World Cups and the world events that are coming. T20 World Cups in the US and Caribbean next year, and we into season 2. I think we're already starting to see young players that are being picked for South Africa saying how the exposure to season 1 of SA20 benefited them, and gave them, a bit of a platform, to be better prepared for international cricket when it does come around. So on a cricket level, yes. I think on a commercial level, it's absolutely important that Cricket South Africa, or cricket in this country, found a seat at the table in terms of having a commercial product that it can own. With franchise cricket growing, to be out of that space, to have something that you can own and build commercially is crucial. I think bilateral cricket in itself is in an interesting space. It's probably lacking a little bit of context. Series and broadcasters are probably not investing as much in that type of product anymore. So it was crucial that we got a seat at the table and we built something that we could really own and build from, take from strength to strength going forward.
Betway as the sponsor is an interesting addition. It is many people don't know this, a group of South Africans who own it, even though it's a massive multinational today. Were they easy to get on board?
I think, if I think back to building the product, I was at the core of building the product. I think because of the negativity in South African cricket that had developed over the years, the failed products in the beginning. When you go into market and you're trying to, while you're building the product, and you're trying to convince players, partners, broadcasters of this massive ambition that you have, it's not easy. People need to buy in and trust you. So I'll be forever grateful for that. I remember we signed probably 30 odd players on international stars on risk in the beginning. And they backed me, and they backed the opportunity, with other leagues cropping up around us. There was a Dubai league that, money's not an issue, that was establishing. There were other opportunities in Australia. So to attract the top international talent for season 1 based on risk and us saying, look, guys, we're going to do it at this level, was incredible. And then from there, it's I think, people forget that we're only probably 11 and a half months old now. And, to then go to market and attract broadcasters initially, because you want to build a global product. I mean, our ambitions are to be the biggest league outside India. I mean, that is our ambition, and we've stated it from the start. So, to be able to attract broadcasters like Sky, Viacom in India, obviously SuperSport in Sub-Saharan Africa. We're about to close the deal with Willow in North America, Fox, and the likes, Etisalat. So that was a big thing for us. And then the title partner in year 1 for Betway to get behind us. They're very experienced in the sponsorship market. You'll see across a number of sporting platforms. But, so for them to support a product at the level they have, and then activate at the level they have, has been a huge asset for us in season 1 and build into season 2.
And the players, Graeme, as far as the owners are concerned, the franchises, and it's not difficult to work out. For instance, that the Durban Super Giants are from the Lucknow Super Giants in the IPL and so on. Are they sending players over from the IPL franchises, or is it a completely different group of players that play in the South African teams?
There is a crossover. I mean, you'll see like Mo and Ali at the Super Kings, the Joburg Super Kings. He plays for the Chennai Super Kings as well. Naveen Al-Haq. You'll see him at the Super Giants. He plays. So on some elements there is alignment. And others not as well. For example, Rashid Khan, he in South Africa, he plays for MI Cape Town, and then plays for Gujarat Titans, who aren't actually in our league. So, there's a bit of crossover. On the international talent, it's always about availability. If you think about Australia, have got their own summer going on now. You generally wouldn't attract an Australian player that is contracted to Cricket Australia. I think there's a hope that well, not a hope, with free agency, you do attract some of those players, but in general, you won't, based on the international schedules. But I think at a core, we'll always have our best South African players available, which is a key thing. Our top international talent, our top domestic talent, and we want to see that. I think for the competition to grow, that's got to get better and better every year. I think you want to see new heroes being built, youngsters coming through, attracting new talking points. And then we'll fill that with the best international talent that we can possibly find. And I think we've managed to do that very well now, season 1 and going into season 2.
If you could get in a time machine and take your own career and start it today, would participating in this have made you a better player?
I think these things are all cyclical. I think, for me, it's just, for us, this was so far off the radar when we were coming through. It wasn't, I think these type of commercial entities and franchise leagues, if I think about what players are earning today, it's incredible, and I'm happy for them. It's the way, this type of growth is important to see kind of cricket moving with the rest of the world and the times. For me, it was about, you do what you need to do. My pipeline was very different. It was school, it was under 19, then try and make it into your domestic, for me, it was Gauteng, Transvaal at the time, and I signed a contract as I finished school for Western Province and moved to Cape Town. You perform there, you get picked for the SAA, then you go to Proteas, and that's it. You maybe play a bit of county cricket in an off season or something like that. So, I mean, where franchise cricket has changed the landscape for players now is that it's almost, you played for South Africa and you can play, and have a seriously, strong career at franchise level and do very, very well. So for youngsters coming through, that whole mindset is entirely different now.
And the moms are probably going to be happy that their talented youngsters could look at cricket, not just rugby, as an alternative.
Look, it's the old adage, rugby, the mothers are worried about the physical, and then in cricket, they're worried about the time on the Saturday. So T20 cricket obviously does make that a little bit less of an issue.
After a good start last year, you're now into your second year. What did you actually focus on? And maybe just go back to last year, what you were hoping to achieve and how you're going to be building on it in the 2024 series.
So, I think cricket will always be the main object of the product, to see really competitive cricket, the best players in South African stadiums, playing against each other. A highly competitive league for me is always going to be number one. And then, as I said, cricket had developed a really negative space over the years, and I think everyone was, in almost a mindset of, not loving the game anymore. The fans had kind of fallen flat. People that got irritated with it, politics had got in the way. So we wanted to revive the cricket fan, and then we wanted to be able to attract a whole new audience in the way that we went about things. Getting fans back into the stands to enjoy the cricket, but when they were in those stadiums, is to really feel like it was a great occasion. So our other ambition is to be the number one sports and entertainment brand in South Africa. So, we spend an immense amount of money on that in-stadium experience, from music to entertainment, and offering things that, from a young kid or a family right up to anyone else that's just looking for a good night out on a Tuesday night is something that we kind of build our stadium experiences around. And that ended up being a huge success in season 1. I mean, a lot of our sort of fan data questionnaire stuff that went out, that, people really loved being in the stadiums, and the fan engagement stuff that went on, the music, the entertainment, and then obviously the cricket. So for us, that is always going to be key, is how we can, really grow the fan base, grow the cricket fan base, introducing the new audiences, letting them love the game, having great in-stadium experiences. And then the other thing that surprised me last year was the brand affinity. We thought it might take 3-4 years for fans to really get up to date with kind of, who their local team, MI Cape Town or Sunrisers, Eastern Cape or whatever. But I'll never forget standing in the first, so we had a opening, we had a game in each stadium in the first week last year. And I'll never forget standing there and seeing the crowds going mad, PE in orange and Durban in their colours, and, the blue in Cape Town and so on, the yellow in Joburg. And the fans just really so engaged. And that was kind of a goosebump moment for me because, having seen our cricket go through a negative phase, to see kind of people back in enjoying the game, having a fantastic time. People are talking about the young talent coming through, the superstars, and it's actually cricket at the core that's being spoken about. That was a goosebump moment for me.
And Graeme, just from a broader perspective to end off with, the impact on South Africa Inc. on our economy?
Yeah, so we did a economic impact assessment post season 1, and yeah, I mean, it was amazing. I think way too much in taxes. I think over 200 million in taxes paid, but I think over 4 billion contributed to the GDP. I think over 8,000 employment opportunities were created. We certainly felt that in the feedback as well, from vendors to agencies to people that, post-COVID in the sports industry or events industry that had just really struggled. So I think, and the other one was sort of over 1 billion in direct expenditure. So, we hopefully that will grow with tourism in particular. We are beaming into all global markets. We've got a strong Indian presence, and we're hoping that from a tourism perspective, that's an area that we can really grow and really benefit as well.
Graeme Smith, former captain of the Proteas, now a businessman running a 4 billion rand enterprise. Wow. Look forward to the Betway SA20 challenge. And I'm Alec Hogg from BizNews.com.